In this video, I show off my design for the Sugar Shack, Nature Center, and Family Pavilion. If you're thinking about building an outdoor shed or an accessory building, make sure you check with your local building codes and you get the input from a structural engineer. Do it right. I did, and I met my town's approval recently, and I'm excited to start building this thing. This building itself is 22 feet long by 20 feet wide, and off of that building is a pavilion, which is 16 feet long by 20 feet wide. The total length is 38 feet, and it sits on 12 concrete piers. Those piers are 10 inches in diameter, and they're 4 feet in the ground to get below the 42-inch frost line that we have in Connecticut. I went with a timber instead of a poured slab just to save on cost. Slab would have cost me 10 to 15,000. This was not 10 to 15,000. What you see here are 3 beams, 22 feet long, that go to the length of the building. And those beams are 2x10s with plywood in between, all pressure treated wood. And the joists are 16-inch on center, except for this one area over here, which is 8 inches on center. And that's to give more structure for where the evaporator is going to go. Remember, this is a sugar shack, so an evaporator is a really heavy thing to boil the sap to make maple syrup. Let's get into the structure of this whole thing, and it's a big project. There's some pretty high-end wood being put in for this. Let's start with the most expensive piece. 20-foot length LVL, 14-inch wide by 1.75 inches, doubled. And that is the red beam that you see there. That's supporting the pavilion. And the green one that you can kind of see right underneath there that goes the long ways of the pavilion, that's also 14-inch wide LVL, doubled. By the way, LVL is $12 a foot right now. So yeah, and that's all because I didn't want to put a center post in the middle of the pavilion. I now regret that, but I think I'm going to be really happy with the end result. In the middle of the building, what's really holding up the roof is that yellow beam, that center post beam that you see there. And that's being held on a 6x6 post. And those are quadrupled 2x12s. That's what the plans called for. In the purple here underneath the pavilion, those are 2x10s, 20-foot 2x10s to support that roof. It's a 412 pitch roof for the pavilion, and it's an 812 pitch roof for the building itself. I'm using 2x8s for the rafters. You can see some of the interior structure there. And then inside the building, I also have a loft, and we're going to view into that loft in a second. That loft is really to support storage of buckets and all the miscellaneous stuff that I got going on. That loft is about 7.5 foot wide and goes across the whole building. It's being supported with 2x6s, and then that's a 2x8 20-foot board that's supporting that loft. Again, for light storage, nothing overly heavy. And you can see the chimney. I'm using 2x4 studs on the walls, 8-foot walls, 16-inch on center is nearly everything. And I have a 16-inch overhang on the sides of the building and about a 12-inch overhang on the gable ends, just to make it aesthetically pleasing. You're now seeing 4 studs that are being used to form the post where the pavilion beam is going to rest on. 4 studs, and that's giving it plenty of structure and support. In some cases, I'm using 2x12s for door headers or 2x8s for door headers, depending on what the town and the specs called for. I have about 5 windows being put in and 2 doors into the building. And you can see the ridge beam over there for this roof, which is triple 2x12s. Triple 2x12s for the ridge beam of the roof. And you can see the cupola over there. And it's gonna be a little complicated to build. That black beam is a 2x8, 20-foot 2x8 to support the loft. I'm using it for light storage, and that wraps up what the building's going to be. Let's go inside. I also did a layout of what the interior is going to look like, and this is a 3D rendering of what that layout is. And on the right side, you see a lounge with my dog Ruby just chilling out there and getting ready for a spot. Then a workshop on the right. That silver thing in the middle, that's the evaporator. On the left, I'm still trying to think what I'm going to put on the left. One model shows a booth like you see there, a built-in booth that I can use for eating or writing or kids doing homework or whatever. Place to store some wood, miscellaneous things. It's gonna be a as big as the building is. It's still gonna be a tight fit. And then eventually, I'm gonna do wood pine siding inside. So instead of going with sheetrock, which I think can get moldy from the steam and all that, probably wouldn't be that big of a deal actually. But I want to go for a cabin look, a rustic look, a more natural look. But that's going to be phase two of this whole build. I also have a side door for egress, and then this is where the loft would be if you were to go up a story. So right above there is a loft, and then where the evaporator is, a vaulted ceiling where you can see the cupola. It'll be a great room and a nice look and feel. Going through the building, you can see the workshop over there. I'm gonna have a big 4 by 8 foot table. Really, it's just a piece of plywood, and I'm gonna build it up into a table. And I think this is gonna give me what I need: workshop, sugaring space, place to show my kids nature and just relax. So, pretty excited for the design. The outside looks like this. It's going to have T11 siding. My goal is to paint the building brown so it blends in with the forest. I don't want it to stick out. I'm not looking for white trim or anything like that. Again, going for that natural cabin look. There's a door on the side and a front door. That door on the side is to help with egress and also to get any firewood or support any of the sugaring stuff that I might need as I use the building in the season. And I'm going to hook up power to it. It's going to be fully lit with lights and things like that. This was an earlier design. I didn't go with this. What this design showed was more of an L type building, and just doing that L would increase material cost, increase complexity, and it just didn't fit in the location and what I was trying to do. So it did take a few iterations to get it right, but taking my time and spending a lot of time on the design, I think is going to pay dividends for when I build the building. So with the design done, it's time to build this thing, and I'll post more videos on that soon. Thanks for watching.